Hey, what's up everybody? I'm in the fish room. I've been missing a few weeks because we had Ultimate Green Water and been super busy, so I've got Jimmy filming and it's gonna make it a little easier to show some things. And we got new fish. That's mostly why I'm filming, but I'm gonna start here and kind of go around. So the Pseudotropheus saulosi still doing well. The dominant male, subdominant male, and then a bunch of females. We've got some plants in here. This water was super duper green because I was out of town. Now it's not so much, so I'm just kind of feeding and moving around and showing you guys what's going on. Need to plant, desperately need to plant, but these guys have been growing well, eating like pigs, and I'm hoping, I gotta stack a bunch more rock work in there, but we're low. So we ordered more, it's coming, but I don't want to steal rock that we could just normally just sell. So the Tuxedo guppy is down low. I just took the UV sterilizer off of this bad boy. So the water's still a little bit white, and I was feeding pretty darn heavy. I was trying out some foods, and I'm not gonna name the food necessarily. It was meant for blood parrots, and it was a red color enhancing food, and did not do well. The fish did not like it, so it led to kind of a bloom. The shrimp and the snails loved it. They were totally eating on it. You can see they're laying a bunch of egg sacs because I got a lot of food in there. But still gonna feed these guys. And kind of some cool things that are going on in here. At the very back, some of the moss is actually growing onto the wall, which is a cool thing, I think, when that happens, because it seems like it shouldn't be able to grow onto grass. But otherwise, the green water for 2 or 3 weeks didn't do too much damage. We had a little bit of shading on some of these leaves, so they're turning translucent because the green water was stealing all the nutrients. So I turned the light level down a little bit. And I guess people always ask what my settings are for that. And so let me pull that open for you guys because I know you guys will want to know. This is the bottom 75. And so I put basically everything, the white and yellow is at about 60%, red's at 50%, and 40% on, like, I don't know what the other white blue is, but blue is all the way down. So that's what I'm running on this. It was up much higher and the water went green on me, and so no one was watching while I was out of town. So it first went in and then ran into a problem. So, we'll remedy that. I gotta dial it in a little bit. Move on to the new fish finally, or maybe I should just show these plants off. We did bring in some new mosses. These are probably the only 3 left because they're probably sold out at this point. But Physidens fontanus in the center there, some coral moss over here, and the very first one is the mini Christmas moss. We'll be getting those as many times as we can and as often as we can. Just know it's going to be pre-sold out like all the time. Like that's just, we can never get a billion of them. That's just going to be a problem.
That's a lot of growth. I just put that there not too long ago.
Yeah, well, so we get them in and they're kind of like really matted down. And as they like rehydrate and go, wait a second, I'm getting sunlight again, they'll kind of fluff up, So all these were in the water the same day, but only 2 of them really fluffed up. That coral moss is such a slow grower. But we try to show them in the worst possible condition on the website so that when you get something you're going, oh, mine's better. Like you'll be happier to see it much fluffed up as opposed to, if we show it fluffed up and it comes in like that, you're gonna feel ripped off. So, we try to be honest. New fish, here we go. These I've been wanting a long time. They're gonna go in the 800 gallon eventually. We have Datnioides, which they get about 18 inches or so, kind of huge ambush predators. And then we have Tenopoma leaf fish, which are also ambush predators, but they only get about 6 inches or so. And once I heard they were kind of eating on vibrobites, I decided to bring them home. And I've been feeding them vibrobites and bloodworms currently. They're super reclusive because they have to sneak up, even on pellets. They're like, oh, I better sneak up on that pellet. And I believe we got 3 of the Datnioides and 5 of the leaf fish, which I'll probably try to beef that up quite a bit. And as they grow, obviously, I would have to upsize their tank. You can see they're just being derpy right now. They don't realize. This air pump is very light, and it's being run by the, well, if we look up top there, it's the nano USB air pump running on that. I've had that going for a couple months now at least. And runs silent. We did a video on that today. And good little option, but I knew they would do this. I can sit back and watch them eat these, but I knew on camera they're not going to eat them. Eat that for me. I knew it. I knew they wouldn't do it. because they, people always say like my fish won't eat it. And I'm always like my fish love it, and here we are like I can't even prove you that they eat it. But I promise you, I wouldn't set this exhibit up and be like watch them not eat this. Like that would make me look bad. But maybe if we don't stand in their way,
we don't usually stand.
Yeah, I usually sit back and watch. So maybe we'll feed some later in tripod and show it off. But over here we've got some experiments going on. So we still have these little, these little Alba marginata bettas, and we feed them mostly frozen foods. I'll put a little bit of dry food in here, but they really don't like dry food. And I haven't done a whole lot other than I'm playing with this CO2 kit. We're considering if we want to ship it and do all that. You can't ship it in normal mail. It's like a real pain, and it feels like there's nothing in here. But the way it works is it's the same method we saw in San Francisco, right? You put CO2 into the water and it'll slowly dissolve in. So as this level goes higher, there's less CO2 to dissolve, and you can't really overdose, and you just kind of put your finger here and release something like a can of hairspray. If you go crazy, it's going to be way too much. So I go real slow, and you can kind of just keep adding it. And if you add too much, it's going to come out the bottom or the side here. So as you can see, that's just extra CO2. You could just release way too much. And there's a check valve and all that. And I want to see, A, how long is this going to last my 29-gallon aquarium? B, are there any problems I can notice? C, do I actually get any purling going on? So far, I've yet to see any purling, which has me a little bit concerned because the only bubbling we have going on is very little. And in fact, if you look at the surface, I have such little bubbling that there's a protein film. So there's not way too much agitation going on. We should be getting purling. So I'm a little bit worried about that, and I don't want to tell you guys you should all buy this and we carry it and do all that if it's not actually going to work for me. So this is part of those testings, and you guys always say you want to see me more things that might fail and not make it past my testing and that kind of stuff. And this so far, it hasn't failed, but so far it's not doing what I need to do either. So I'm a little bit, don't know about that. So we'll see. But for now, not bringing it in, and we'll keep the testing.
Fish are eating, by the way.
The leaf fish are? I believe that because as we move on, I bet you as we kind of leave, they'll start eating. But down low, we've got the angels, and these are the blue angelfish, and not a whole lot going on other than some testing of a sponge filter there. They haven't laid in the last week or so, but babies have been raised up by Dean, and I believe Randy took some home, but I think his fungused up on him, so he's got some learning to do. Throw some Vibrobites in with him because that's what I got in my hand already. There we go. Yeah, there's a filter that needs to be serviced, so when we're done with the video, I should get onto this. It won't overflow yet, but it's real close. Like right here, it could overflow at like any minute. So definitely going to remedy that. I actually did a video on how to make sure that never happens with some of our coarse sponge pads, but it's really close, like a millimeter maybe, and it would start leaking water on the ground. So definitely, I'm going to lift that up actually because it's just so close to. And that's the problem is like that one's probably serviced the same day. It's not doing it, but the loads are different. I feed this guppy tank really heavy, and the problem is when you're out of town, no one's really watching it, and yeah. So then over here, I'm gonna put some of these in. We've got some other tests going on. So one, these are my guppies I brought back from Vienna. But the test that we have going on is the small size ZISS filter that people have been wanting for like a 10-gallon tank. And so far, I won't bring it in because it is tumbling, but we have to put so much air through here that I'm not sure your average size air pump can do it. And so that's my worry, is that I have to use a ton of air to pull this off. Like if I turn it down like at all, it really stops tumbling. So that's my worry. My worry is that it works, but if you don't have a commercial-sized air pump running your whole fish room, it's not going to work. And in a 10-gallon tank, usually you run small pumps, right? So it needed to need less air, whereas the other ones we're using, like in the Pseudotropheus tank and the other guppy tank, use less air. So it's one of those. Yeah, that's a product where I would love. Don't get me wrong. I fully believe I could sell 10,000 of these things before the word got out that they're not easy to use. But that's my reputation on the line. So far, I've been kind of hammering on them, like, let's go back to the drawing board, let's figure out where this is going wrong. Is it because the air's not traveling long enough? Is it because there's too much media? Like, what can we do to solve this? And so far, we haven't figured it out. But when we do, that's when we'll have a good product. So where else are we going besides these guppies that look amazing? I guess we can go look at the 800 gallon. These lights, we were shooting a bunch of videos today on air pumps and that kind of stuff, and I turned off all the power because we used a dB meter to see how quiet these air pumps were. And then these are on timers that I can't physically get to, and so I just have to wait for tomorrow for them to come back on. So let's grab some food. I gotta go buy more food. So some of the foods I've been testing are some different koi foods, but they have a lot of different blends. But Hai Fang, we don't carry it yet. I think I'm going to bring some of these foods in. I just really want to make sure which foods I'm going to bring in. I don't know if we have any more. Yeah, you can just see how many different foods and that kind of stuff I end up testing and products, and that's just where we hide all this stuff. You know, it's just a billion things to test and try, and yeah, I don't know where they went, but I've always liked this food. I fed it way before I ever owned a store, and we could never buy it at a good price, and I might be able to buy it at a good price, and so I gotta feed these guys. One of the benefits right now that I like is that all the other packages, they splash water into the bag. They don't get any into this because it's got this little feeding hole. So if you have like Oscars and that kind of stuff, it allows me to, you know, they go nuts for it and it doesn't let any water in there. So I have to distract them with a ton of pellets. And they're eating like 5 times a day now. I swear I can't keep these guys fed enough. And then you got Ladybird, who just wants the meaty stuff. And we'll get her going here. Oh, don't fall out of my hand. So once they thaw, they'll sink down. But she's getting boisterous. She's not afraid to eat. And she'll get a big old belly on her. And I've been overfeeding a little bit so that the ghost knife and the plecos in there can get some. Getting a lot of blue-green algae starting on the gravel, and there's a lot of wood pulp from the pleco poop. And so there's some secret fish that I've got hopefully arriving in a couple of days, and that would be some albino threadfin acaras. And they're hopefully going to churn through the substrate. And I fell in love with the albino threadfin acaras in China, which hopefully Jimmy can find that footage because I thought they looked really cool. And so I'm going to grow some out, and they're still expensive, but the first time I've been able to get them in the U.S., so we'll see. Oh, Ghost Knife's coming out from his hole finally, and the Goldie Pleco. So as these extra pieces of shrimp make it, they can start smelling it, and they'll start hunting for it. And there's still those 2 clown loaches that are eating like kings in here that we'll never be able to catch out probably. Water's very tannin at the moment. We're not doing huge water changes, but need to plant it all. That's one of the bigger things is I bought tongs and all that, and it's just one of those, you know, one of those things that it'll all make sense kind of as some more videos come out. You'll be like, oh, that's why you were so busy. And then all the trips that we've got lined up, I've been really working on some stuff. So, you know, it's one of those things that it'll all come together eventually. But right now it just looks like I'm the laziest fish keeper alive, which that's all right. You know, I'll take my beating now and then prove it later. The one last thing I think we can do is we can go feed some ponds because it's just warm enough today to be feeding and not getting rained on. So we'll cut to that. Oh, I guess, yeah, you could get the ghost now. Look at him eat that. He's just chowing it down. Oh. People think like, oh, he doesn't eat that much. Like, oh no, he'll come out and, yep. He's got his meal. I'll put a few more in because they've finished it all off, and he'll want a few more. So, you know, I like to. This is one of the reasons I overfeed. Is a guy like that is such a reclusive eater. You won't know he's starving. Same with the plecos. Like the plecos eat after him even, and so there's none left because Ladybird, you know, has got a food baby going on, and we want everyone to get a bite. So, you know, and these archers are taking down a lot of it too. I don't think any made it to the bottom because the archers, like they just keep packing it on. So I got to put some more in there. They'll eat all the pellets too, but they're just pigs. So I'm hoping that the Datnioides and everything going in there will help with that long term with some of the other fish. So, all right, now I'm gonna head outside. All right, so now we're out here at the ponds where I forgot my fry food, so let me go grab my fry food. All right, so now we're out here and you can see my secret outside projects. Obviously it's sunny today, which is good, but we're gonna feed these guys. These are rice fish, but you can see my next test here, which is USB nano air pump with the ZISS air stone, right? And we're running it off solar. So this is a solar battery bank that's got like, I want to say it's 7,000 or 10,000 milliamps, and it's run solar, it recharges solar. So yes, this could get rained on, so I need to put like a little bit of a plastic bag. It's under my eave of my garage or my studio right now, but I need to protect a little more. But I want to show you guys that this is what makes this kind of so cool, is the fact that there's no power going to this pond otherwise. And so when it's really hot, it'll recharge it and it will keep air going. If it's super cold and rainy and cold outside, well, it's not going to recharge, but you also don't need that because it's colder. So, you know, it's one of my secret projects that I'll do a whole video on it eventually. This is one of the original bottles that never got cut. It's always like the worst. There we go. These are one of the test bottles. It's barely even been squeezed. I grabbed the wrong one apparently. Do better if I do that. But lots of platinum rice fish. There's a couple of oranges in here that we'll end up catching out before they breed for the summer. Yeah, there's an orange right there. There's a couple of them in there, and but it's just warming up. They'll start breeding in the center tote, and I just feed these guys, you know, every day a little bit of something. There's some oranges in here. You can see them running across the back. And really, I just only feed very small foods because they'll eat bugs and stuff that fall in. But when the babies start showing up, that's when we want them to eat all this super fine food. And then over here, these are all the oranges, and there's a couple of platinums that have come out. So the genes aren't 100% set in these. And I'm going to be backlit and it'll be horrible. But these are all the ones where they almost froze to death when we noticed outside and they made it. We did lose a few of the adults, or they're hiding. One of those two things is going on here. But I can show you some other tricks with these ponds if you want to see. So we put a little bit of food in there for them, and they're going to, you know, start eating all that once they realize what's going on.
I think they're eating the ones that are...
Yeah, oh yeah, they are. So one of the tricks we have an intake sponge at the very bottom of the pond, and it's hooked up to a bulkhead. So if we look on the outside, this is how we did the koi tote system. So if I ever need to change water, I can just flip the nozzle and a water change starts happening, and we make sure we don't suck up any of the babies because we have an intake sponge. So that's how we can do big water changes, and we have the hose right out here, and it makes these ponds super duper easy. We're doing a bigger project. I guess I can show you projects in the future. If we come on over here. So I need to mow the yard. It's been raining nonstop, my poor little dogs, but put some gates in, and we've been putting some dirt down, some earth, and the goal is to basically build ponds all the way around the studio. So they're going to be 2 feet to 3 feet high and come out about 2 feet, and every 8-foot section is going to be a different live culture. So we want scuds, we want Daphnia, we want live brine shrimp, because brine shrimp give birth to other live brine shrimp when they're happy. And we're also going to put some rice fish and some other things. We're going to do it all the way down here and all the way across the back and the other side. So this big horseshoe. If you come back with me, Jimmy, you got your shoes dirty.
I didn't even know this was going on.
I know, there's a lot going on.
That's how top secret it is.
So it's going to go all the way. So we have a really long run. Obviously, we're not going to block a door or anything like that, but you know, the goal is not to ship it or do anything like that. It's just so that I have a really robust colony to feed the fish that I want to play with, and I really enjoy all the little critters when it comes to the fish food. So yeah, wheelbarrow back here. We're still moving earth, and we're going to start building, and all that's kind of on the back burner projects to play around. But we're starting now. You know, it's April, And we want to start now so that it's not like, dang it, summer's over. We didn't do any of the summer projects again this year. So I'm starting while it's still rainy. You can see it's still wet and all that kind of stuff. But if we don't start now and just build every single day it's not downpouring, we're never going to get it done because it rains too much here in Washington. So the hope is we'll have a gangbuster season this summer to show you guys kind of live culture foods and that kind of stuff. And it's, if you're in the aquarium group support, you know, that's been my goal this year. I've been like, oh, what do you guys want to do? I was like, oh, I want to make live foods, because that's, after visiting Goliad Farms, which you guys will have seen that by the time this airs, he's got it going on, and I'm in love with all his live foods. So, all right, last stop, front yard with the koi pond. Go. I'm already gonna grab something else, hold on. All right, so we're here at the pond, lots of green water, but my Fluval UV bulbs have arrived, the replacements for the filters. So that's what these guys are. They're 36 watt, very large UV bulbs. And they, if you kind of, I guess, come over here, I can show you the filter housing. Like I said, yard desperately needs to be mowed, but it's super wet still. But right down in here, why is this not coming up? Ooh, there we go. Because Jimmy was standing on it. So these will just pop right down into each one of these, and the bulbs are at least 2 years old, so they've lost a lot of their potency. And so that's why we've got the green water. We're hoping that that will go ahead and fix everything we need it to fix. So that's, and then we're gonna back flush when we do water change and all that, but not today because it's super wet and we got other things we gotta do, like film this. But, so I do have the bulbs. That's like, hopefully I'm gonna get that done before we go to, before I go to Florida, but I've only got about 4 days. So not quite sure about that yet, but we have the supplies, and that's half the battle. So that's that. Now we're gonna feed these guys, see if we can't get them to show on camera here, because I gotta come up to the surface. Right now, I've been feeding the leftover of last year's kind of Hikari Gold. And this is a great staple food that most koi keepers, I think, should feed. Just the gold is not crazy expensive or anything like that. So we'll get some of that in there. I took all this duckweed out of my living room tank to feed them. They've been working on it. There was a lot in here. And then these are foods I'm gonna try out. I fed this 2 years ago, and I got really good growth on my koi. The A-Life food, the problem is something like this is about $100. So it's quite a bit for 11 pounds of food, you know. And that lasted me about 2 months last summer. And then we've got this here, which I've never fed, and I'm not even sure how much we'd have to sell it for, but again, same brand, Haifeng. And so I'm interested to see, it's got a little more spirulina in it and stuff. How the koi finally realize what we're doing. But I've got a big auto feeder on the way that we're gonna install, so these guys can put a lot of size on. If you're new to the channel, you don't know this pond's 6 feet deep, 10 foot by 10 foot. And most of these are Doitsu koi, so they don't have scales. Better throw some more food in there because they're hungry hippos today. When the sun comes out, they warm up a little bit. And haven't built any chairs or benches or anything up here yet. It's kind of on the to-do list along with all the other projects, but it is kind of at the right height to do. I gotta take my recording back out of my, but you still can kind of sit up on here and just enjoy them. So I'm really hoping to kind of, like, it's still pretty cold, but get way more interactive with them, start hand feeding them, that kind of stuff, invite the, you know, the grandkids, if you will, nieces and nephews and all that, let them feed, they'll have a blast. And yeah, I might even do some koi shopping this year. We'll see how that goes, but if I have time.